All right, hello everybody. Welcome to my channel again, to another plog, as I've started calling these. They're like podcast vlogs, so I've coined the term plog.
Kind of like
Um,
Pogs.
yeah, it's like pogs. I'm with my friend Ryan here.
Hey, what's
Uh,
up?
Thanks for joining, Ryan. Ryan lived with me in LA. We're going to talk about that and our whole, I would say, crazy experience down there.
Yeah, crazy
um,
year.
Crazy year, yes. And we went to school together, so that's where we originally met in a TV production, not even just TV, it was like a film production slash TV production class. Um, so we had the same interest of wanting to do film and video. We met in college, and I don't even remember exactly how we became friends, but we did.
I think we sat next to each other in a communication class, and you were always making sarcastic comments under your breath, and I thought you were funny, so we just started chatting. Yeah.
That is so awesome. I'm glad. And that is totally how I met one of my other podcast friends. If he
Nice.
hears that story, he'll be like, that is
I think
exactly
you were
why
just
we
always
became friends.
making fun of like what the teacher was doing. Yeah,
It's true.
it kept me entertained.
I'm glad. And it does work. Like it makes you connect to people when you can kind of like basically mock what's going on,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and then you and I had different interests too in terms of like what we wanted to do with production.
Sure.
We could talk about that now, even like my dream going back. Well, this was discovered in like high school.
Mm-hmm.
Was to do a sitcom, Shock. And so I started a sitcom with one of my cousins, Shock. I'm saying Shock because I've done this multiple times. Uh, and it was a different cousin than the one on my comedy channel now. Same premise. It was straight man, dumb person, the whole combo. Um, and I remember watching like Nick at Night and being like, I want to make sitcoms because these live on forever and it's comedy and it makes people laugh. And like Lucille Ball is still on and she was on the air like 50 years ago. Like she's
Yeah.
still famous and like not famous. I don't want fame for fame, but I wanted to like be entertaining people for years.
Sure.
And so I kind of saw the longevity of sitcoms. So that stood out in my mind. And then my backup plan, this is in high school, was to be a talk show host. And it's funny I say that because I'm doing both things on my YouTube channels now, in a way.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I kind of got to live it. No, but it's funny that that was a backup plan. Again, like, you're very naive when you're young with like, I will take the world by the.
Either a sitcom or president of the United
Yeah,
States.
one of the
Plan
two.
B. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the two. Nothing big. Um, and so that's why I pursued kind of that path. And then when I took the production class that you and I took, the communication class, my focus was like I still want to do the same thing. I want to do like a probably a sitcom again. That was the focus at the time,
Well,
and
that was your thesis film
that was my
for,
yes,
yeah,
that's
for
right.
the
And
communication. Yeah.
you
Three
were in
blocks
that.
from the Nut House.
Yes, you
I
were in
got
that.
the star in that. That was a blast.
Yeah, I still have to send you a copy, by the way.
Yeah, please do.
You
I
don't have it,
lost
yeah,
my old copy. Yeah.
yeah. And I
On
think
a
if I
good
have,
old DVD, standard
oh yeah,
res. Yeah.
it's a DVD. And so yeah, I wanted to keep pursuing that. And then I never, and we'll talk about this with you. I know we're gonna get off of me in a second. Make sure we talk about you too. Uh, I never was like brave enough to really go all in on acting, and like that's what I wanted to do. Probably more so than behind the scenes, but I was just too like, I,
Shocker.
yeah, right. And I was like, I need stability. I need the behind the scenes. It's more stable, and I think I was just scared to even like act if I wasn't in control of the acting. So I took one theater class when we were in college, like just one, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of improv, like basics of theater. Like I didn't have to memorize lines or anything like that, and
Yeah,
I
I
kind
took
of wish
one
I'd done more.
acting
Yeah.
for non-majors at Santa Clara as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Same.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll get back to like all my hopes and dreams and what I've done with YouTube, but TV was kind of my path and like my dream path, and so that was part of the idea of like we'll move to LA after we're done. But yeah, if you want to tell people what you were kind of thinking, your mindset at that time.
Yeah, well, I discovered, I mean, I'd always kind of hammed it up for the camera, if need be,
Yeah.
and the need was be back in the day. But I really wanted to be a director,
Mhm.
be an auteur, the next Christopher Nolan,
Yes, that's
small
right.
small
Christopher
goals,
Nolan.
right?
Yeah. Small.
Still love him. Makes great movies.
He does.
Even
Yeah.
though I haven't really liked his last few, he doesn't make a bad movie. I got to give him credit for staying relevant and making globs of money and still getting good Rotten Tomato scores pretty much
I
every outing.
did he do it's I know this one. Did he I saw it with my in theaters. The Matthew McConaughey one.
Oh yeah, Interstellar.
Interstellar.
Yeah, I
That's
think
the last one I
that's an
saw that he
excellent
did.
movie. It actually got better when I watched it the second and third time. I think I watched it 3 times. Yeah.
This will probably be a separate conversation, but I
Yeah,
didn't
I know.
really
But
pay
I
attention with
wanted
it. But
to
anyway, yeah.
write,
Yes.
direct. I didn't think anything about acting or starring in it. I just wanted to write and direct,
Okay.
and loved being behind the camera and loved being the creator, and definitely movies, not television. At the time, I mean now, another conversation, but there's really a thin line, if there's a line at all, between film and television as far as what that means on the production
Oh,
side and
it has
storytelling.
changed
Oh yeah.
so much since we were
And
in
I
yeah.
love, good television, streaming shows, and
Mm,
yeah. Um,
mhm,
but anyway, I wanted the magic of the big screen. It
mhm.
was my dream. It's still my dream, since when I was a kid, to see your name, in the credits or in the beginning, directed by,
Oh yeah.
and just to have that dark room and that collective experience. So yeah,
Yeah.
rather than, I don't know, the TV when it's on in the background and you're ironing your underwear or something. I don't
Oh, I was all for that. I was like, I want to capture people when they're taking care of their underwear.
I want people to half pay attention while they're doing the
I
dishes, arguing with their spouse, right?
I
That's
know
when
what you
people watch
mean.
sitcoms. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's true
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. No,
But it is funny what you say because it is totally true. And I keep saying we'll touch on this, but we will because there's so many tangents to everything we're talking about here. Because things have changed so much because you and I graduated in '05 from
yeah.
college. And it's just like with streaming and the shift from the studios even this year. I know COVID played a big part, but like everything is released in conjunction with streaming and
Yeah.
theaters now. So it's
But the
yeah.
production value line between film and television was very clear. Now, there was some good television, but if you're talking about dramas or serial programs, you had like, people assume the actors are not first rate. They could be good, but they weren't like the top tier actors. You're not going to have the best budget. You're not going to
Mhm.
have, exotic locations usually. There's a TV budget and then there's a film budget.
Right, right.
And TV was like, the stepchild of film. And I think most people who were on TV wanted to eventually make it to film.
Mhm.
And now that is a very different atmosphere.
Oh yeah.
And especially with, I mean, streaming TV shows, there is no production quality difference between top of the line theatrically released films and top of the line streaming television. Like if you look at something like The Crown,
Oh
how much
yeah.
money they spent per episode, or Game of Thrones.
Yes.
I haven't watched, but just you look at the numbers and the quality of the talent behind and in front of the camera, it's an amazing
Now
shift.
and I completely agree. And you said you haven't watched, but have you not watched The Crown? You said
I've,
that
I've
was for Game of
watched
Thrones.
season 1 and 2 of The Crown. When they
Okay.
switch actors, I haven't started the season 3
Still
yet.
good,
Yeah.
I promise. And
Okay,
season
good.
4 gets really good.
Okay.
The Crown is another like this could be a separate. I love that series. I think each script it could be its own movie. I
Oh,
feel
it's
like for
excellent. Yeah.
like it explores a like very like nuanced whatever like
Hmm.
the aspect is of either a member of the royal family or like a prime minister. But yeah, when I first started watching, it's like this might be like soap opera-y, or I don't know. Let's see how this is. But I was just like, oh my god, this is such a good series, and I watched like all of them as soon as the fourth one came out this year. I just watched it quickly, but yes, I can see what you're saying. Basically, like
Yeah, and
it's
you know what?
amazing. Yeah.
It's sort of a theory of mine. I don't know if it's been explored academically, but I think the medium has changed enough where just if you look at the size of our television screens, it used to be like, I don't know, a
Mm-hmm.
32-inch
Yeah.
television, sitcom and stuff. But the style of acting and writing was very much, to me, it's just like, here's a radio program and you get to see people's faces while
Oh
you
yeah.
listen. And now with screens in homes being so big, the
Right.
acting is a lot more subtle and
Yes.
the writing is a lot more subtle. And I feel like people accept that now.
Yes.
When they're watching a high quality TV show, they realize, well, you can't be a passive spectator folding your laundry if you want to get the most out of it. You actually have to
Yeah.
watch it like you would a big
Yeah.
screen movie. Most of the information is communicated visually like it should be, I
Oh
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
it
It
changes
seems
the performance changes
Absolutely.
the
And even
writing.
those
Yeah.
old shows I used to watch on Nick at Night way back in the day, I actually like when I watch them now, I can see exactly what you're saying. Because
It's
it's
almost
so
like you're
different.
begging for attention in those
Yes,
older shows because the
it's
screen smells like, look at me, I'm
it totally
dancing,
is.
I'm
Yeah,
performing. Yeah.
exactly. They're apparently like
Yeah.
30s vaudevillians. Vaudevillians, not kidding.
Right.
No, I know exactly what you mean. And then I was even rewatching Schitt's Creek recently. Sorry, my headphones
That's a
fell off.
funny show. I
And
watched
which
that with
is
my wife.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. And I originally was watching it with my laptop open. I realized like the first
Mm-hmm.
round, half paying attention, and then I started paying full attention again lately. And there were so many jokes I missed because it's more of the subtlety, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
than the like I'm in your
Yeah.
face jokes. So yeah. All right. So anyway, yeah. So yeah, the medium has changed a ton. But that was still kind of the end goal was like TV producer slash maybe star if I could
Mm-hmm.
like not be shy about that. And your goal was go out there and be a director when we
Yeah.
were like we're gonna go to LA and that was our plan.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I brought it up to you like we should like move to LA and do you want to be my roommate with me when I go down
Yeah.
there? Yeah. And I
And
think you're basically like sure.
I am so bad at making plans. I've gotten better with age, but I'm like,
Uh,
oh, so you have a plan? I didn't, and I was still gonna do it. So I might as well go with the guy who has sort of a plan.
yeah,
Yeah.
sort of. Definitely. And so just like a 20 whatever we were 21 22-year-olds would do,
Yeah.
I just remember packing up a U-Haul driving down Highway 5 from the Bay Area down
Mm-hmm.
to LA. Let me take that back. We're gonna also before that, you and I did like a scouting trip to see where
We
we should
did.
live, and
That's
we
when we
stayed
met
in
K. Bobby Good,
yes, yeah. Oh, I hope
the apartment manager. Yeah.
I hope he's watching this. What do you think the odds are of that? Um,
Not
yeah,
if it's Labor Day.
yeah do you remember we stayed in Silmar, California, which is like off Highway 5 just like maybe 20 minutes before you hit the valley, like Burbank and all of that. So you remember
Oh,
staying in
I don't even
Silmar?
remember that. I remember the scouting trip. I don't remember staying
Yes.
there. Okay.
And it was kind of near like Six Flags to give you like a
Yeah.
sense of where that is. And then I was just in my head again, like great thought process for a young 20 something. I was like, let's just look in Burbank because I knew the Tonight Show filmed there. They always say from Burbank, California, at the
Yeah.
beginning. And I was like, all the big studios are out there. You've got, Warner
Hmm.
Brothers, Disney, Universal's basically in Burbank, even though it's in its own
Very close.
city.
Yeah.
And then, to me, those are the ones that I was like, Warner Brothers or Disney.
Yeah.
I'll be
NBC,
fine with.
right? It's right
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
yeah. And so, that was kind of like the reasoning for Burbank.
Hmm.
So you and so I think you were just kind of following
Oh, I was.
my
Yeah.
lead, yeah, with this. So I drove us to
Neither one of us had jobs, by the way, lined
zero,
up or anything.
zero.
No leads as far as, I mean, I didn't
No,
have any leads. I don't know if you
I
had any
didn't.
leads. We were
No,
just going to show up with whatever savings we had, which for
yep.
me was, I don't know,
This falls out. Yep. Oh,
$4 in a pack of gum. And then we were going to get jobs and make it happen.
yeah, yeah,
And I remember us walking around, like just looking at the apartments, how they looked, and
yeah.
just wanting to avoid anything that looked ghetto, which it was
Right,
Burbank. It's not, it's
right.
not
It
gonna
would
really
be
be ghetto.
fine.
Yeah,
Right.
but I remember we walked by this complex. We're like, this looks nice, and we
Yeah.
were stupid enough to make it think. We believed that it was worth it to spend the amount of money that we did
Yes.
per month because it, looked nice,
Yeah.
and it was nice,
It
and it
was
was
nice.
way out of our price
Oh
range.
my God! It had like palm trees and it had a pool and it had a
Yeah,
hot tub. I can't
well,
think of the word. Yeah.
pretty well manicured grounds and
Yes.
like, yeah, it was for me anyway. When I did get a job, it was at least half of my paycheck or
Me
half
too.
of my monthly income went to that.
Me too.
And yeah, it was a really dumb idea.
Yeah. So like again, smart. Just out of college, we're gonna do this.
Yeah, no, I don't know what to compare it to, but I remember it was it 1,600 a month?
That is correct. It was
Yeah.
1,600 a month, split
So
between us. Yeah.
800 for each of us.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I don't know what it would cost nowadays, but I
Yeah.
remember much later in 2012, because I lived in LA a second time.
Yes, that's
I was
right.
much smarter, and that last year before I moved to Phoenix, I stayed in a friend's living room. There was a tiny apartment,
Ah.
and he had, I think, 5 guys in there at one time. And I put up, like some some wire shelving dividers in the living room and threw blankets over them and had an air mattress on the floor, and I paid $200 a month.
That's the way to do it.
That's what I should have done to start.
Yeah, we should have done that. Just rented like a
Yeah.
one-room thing and used blankets as our
Yeah.
borders. Um, yeah, we learned a lot from that.
Hmm.
I remember too that apartment was near the Warner Brothers ranch facility, which I've
Hmm.
always wanted to do a vlog going inside there because I've never been in there still to this day because you need like you either have to see a show that's
Yeah.
there or and so it's still a dream even though I think someone else bought it from Warner
Is
Brothers
that
just
the campus that
recently.
has a Harry Potter museum in it?
No, but I've been
Okay. Okay.
there because you
Okay.
could pay for tours there.
That's what I thought. Okay, this is
Have
a
you
different one.
have you done that tour?
Yes, that's why I
It's
remember
good.
that. Yeah.
It's a good tour.
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? On this channel, that is my top viewed video.
Well,
Yeah.
say Warner Brothers tour a bunch, and maybe you'll get
Yeah,
views on this.
exactly. I think it's at like 40,000 views. It was kind of nuts. But
Nice.
I'm like tooting my own horn. I'm like, no big deal. The ranch was actually near like a CVS and the Del Taco and
Oh,
Carl's
that Del
Jr.
Taco. I was there all the time.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
Carl's Jr.
And the Carl's Jr. Yeah.
And I think they're both gone.
Well, what
I
are
looked on
they?
I looked on
What's
Google
better
Maps.
than Del Taco and Carl's
I
Jr.?
know.
What could you want on those
Abandoned.
corners?
Yeah, I remember going to that the Carl's Jr. and like that was like a Friday treat and like trying to like think about like how am I gonna get this dream to be realized? Like eating the like double Western or whatever. Um,
Yeah,
but
my
yeah.
vague plan was so I've always enjoyed editing too, and I
Oh
developed some
yeah.
skills at Santa Clara. So I thought I could get a job starting out in editing, move
Mhm.
my way up, and then in the meantime hustle some directing experiences, and just a directing job would fall off an apple cart and land in my lap, and then I'd be a
Totally.
director, right? I didn't think how to connect one thing to another.
No. No, I
Yeah,
mean, and I didn't either. I mean, I
yeah.
think it's amazing. I'd be interested if our current 37-year-old selves could speak to our 22-year-old selves. 'Cause I think we'd be in for a world of surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I discovered more so with the hobby of filming for the YouTube channel that I enjoy editing too. I do not do robust editing. I don't use Avid like we did in school. I
Hmm.
just use iMovie, but I enjoy the storytelling piece and especially with comedy of editing. And I kind of like discovered that like it's
Oh,
actually
I
really
love
fun.
editing. And that's
Yeah,
actually what I'm doing for work right now. So, I mean, I would still like to
beautiful.
direct, but
Yeah.
yeah, editing is a lot of fun.
It is. It's real. It actually is real like storytelling. So I enjoy it, and I'll probably be editing this video due to technical issues. So there's that too. Um, but yeah, I went down there thinking like I will just talk to anyone who has a badge. This is my serious thought, and
Hmm.
I did it once. I'll go to anyone who has a badge from the studios I want to work at because NBC was actually down there at that point too. That's before Universal like the merge.
Oh,
So
yeah.
NBC had its own studio in Burbank. And I was like, if I see them at like Vaughn's, the grocery store down there, or CVS, just go up
It
to one of
wasn't the
them. And
big goal to be an NBC page for like the Tonight Show or
yes,
something like that. That's what
yeah,
everybody wanted to do.
everybody wanted to
Yeah.
do. Yeah, and I think I was too scared to even try to do that because I knew it was so competitive. And
So you're going to meet the NBC pages in Bonds, but
yeah,
not try to get the job.
I'm just gonna like get my way in, like backdoor into these
Like
studios.
conk them over the head, put on their outfit, and just sort of walk in
I
there and
should have
see if
done that.
anybody notices.
Sorry, I Love Lucy. I should have done that. uh, yeah, and I actually went up to a Disney employee. This was actually, I think, very shortly after you left, when I was like extremely lost of what I should do. Because I guess we should talk about. We don't have to say where we worked, but that we ended up landing jobs. Uh,
Hmm.
but after you left, I saw someone with a Disney badge at Albertsons. And like poor thing, I don't even know what department she was in. It might have been like accounting and like she's just trying to shop for like frozen food, probably for her family.
Yeah.
She was like 40 something maybe, and I'm just going up to her being like, "You work at Disney? Do you know any?" And she's probably just like, "Kid, I'm just trying to." They probably do get that a decent amount. Like if people see that you're with a studio, even for like non-actors, like I would imagine
Yeah, they
people
got
are
to like cover
trying.
up any identifying
Yeah.
marks when they walk in a store,
Yes. Exactly.
hide their mouse ears or whatever they wear.
Exactly. They all have to wear mouse ears at Disney. Um, so you and I went through a temp agency.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually landed a job with a production company. It was an animation production company. Um, I can just say it because who cares? For me at least. So my company I worked for was as a temp job was Klasky Chupo, and they're the ones who made Rugrats or the
Oh yeah,
Rugrats
I
series and like
remember.
Real Monsters, and I had like a temp job there of just like scanning copies, and it was like a whatever to get in, but at least the temp agency landed me at like an entertainment company. And it actually was for like a 22-year-old. It was exciting. It was the studio, even though I think they moved locations since. They were on Hollywood and Vine, like they were right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt
It's a
very much
cool place to visit. Yeah.
like I made it, because it's
Yeah.
like I'm on Hollywood and Vine, and like the area is cool. I mean, it has like Amoeba Music Records or whatever that store, the video store that's pretty famous, and then well,
Is
like
that like
Hollywood.
near street performers and all the touristy
Yeah, I was gonna say
stuff?
Hollywood and
Yeah.
Highland, which has
Yeah.
its good parts and weird and bad parts, but like it was near all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I thought like this is a good inn. It actually was in Hollywood. It wasn't that far from our expensive apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I worked with like animators at the like most of the time you and I were living together. That's where I worked. Like with these
Yeah.
animators on like they were making pilots. For and I think a lot of them are still on YouTube actually. All the pilots are there for anyone who wants to search. Uh, that they were going to pitch to Nickelodeon. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
100% what I was like because I wanted to be like on a live set, but it was still interesting to like talk to animators and like even though I was scanning copies most of the day, I could see like their storyboards and
I was actually,
yeah.
I think, as far as getting our foot in the door, even though it wasn't like in the field we wanted to be part of, I think we actually did really well. I think a lot of people
Yes.
struggle longer
Oh
to
yeah.
land a decent job in entertainment with
Yes.
no plan, just
With no
rolling
plan.
out of bed into LA. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it took me about 4 weeks to land that.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got it first because I went through two temp agencies. The first
Yes.
one, because I was so hard up for money, I worked through a temp agency to land um, what was it, a data entry position for a blowtorch manufacturing company.
I
I don't know if you
remember this
remember
now.
in
Yes.
North Hollywood.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, talk about. And I toughed that out, I think, for 3 or 4 weeks. And they started at 7 and left at 4. And I was
Oh
used
yeah,
to like
yeah.
sleeping until noon that summer before
Yes.
like we actually moved. Oh, it
Yeah.
was hell for me.
Oh yeah. Because
And
you are you still a night owl actually?
no, no, I
Okay.
can't.
You
Yeah,
have kids
not at
now, but
all.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
couldn't if I wanted to be. But that was tough. And of course, not related to entertainment at all. But it was a job while I
Mhm.
was looking for other jobs. So I took it. And I remember I didn't even read the information in the temp agency packet that like gives you rules and bylaws or whatever. And I got fired from that job because I was a total idiot. And after
I
a
remember
few
this.
weeks, I was like, I'm not making enough money to stay in LA. Like, I can't even pay my rent.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what my argument or case was for the manager who worked at that plant. But I
Yeah.
was like, can I have a raise? And it's like the most idiotic way to bring up a raise.
Yeah.
And she was polite to me, but then she said, I don't think that's going to work. I was like, oh, okay. And then she went straight to the temp agency, told them that I asked for a raise. And then they called me the next day and said, you're fired. They
For
dropped
asking
me
for a raise.
for asking for a raise. I couldn't do that working through the temp agency.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, it
I
makes
didn't yeah.
sense, but like I didn't read. I knew how to read. I didn't. I didn't read the
You're just
packet,
learning. Yeah.
and yeah, that was a shocker. So
Well,
I
that is
lost
a
that
handy
job.
tip for anybody. I mean, at least
Yeah,
you had the
I think it was
like
$10 an hour I was starting with, maybe a little more. Maybe it was 11 or something like that. But I was like, how am
yeah.
I supposed to
That's
make this work?
good if you're getting 11. I think I started at 9 with a temp agency
Yeah.
with Lasky.
But I was literally entering part numbers for blowtorches into a computer database all day. Like there are stacks of papers. I would take the
Yeah.
numbers and type them in. And I was not a fast typer. I got
Yeah.
that job because literally nobody wanted it.
Yeah. It's weird. No one wanted that.
Yeah.
And it sounds great.
It was like a sad people
Yeah.
at lunch too. And like I was the youngest guy there. These are people who have been there like 20 and 30 years. People who have no business being in like the heart of the entertainment capital of the world. They just like have this random job. They're
Right.
like, why do you even live here?
Right.
Um, and I remember there was like, a big warehouse where they stored the parts out right next to the office. And then during lunchtime, people just sat there, usually by themselves, looking depressed off into the distance, eating their bologna sandwiches.
That's,
And it was so sad. I tried to talk to a couple people and quickly got the vibe that I should shut the hell up and eat
oh,
my
that's
sandwich.
sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that is sad. The nice thing about Klasky was the people were willing to be like friendly at least, which helped
That's
me a
good.
lot, especially as like young and like just starting out there because we did eventually do like lunches together and
Yeah.
like there was more bonding and I made some like friends there, which helps so much. I can only imagine. I kind of remember as you say the blowtorch thing. I kind of remember you having that and like it sounded extra depressing and boring back then.
Yeah. It was straight up awful. But then it didn't take very long after I was fired from that I went to another tape agency and then I got the job at E Entertainment.
Yes.
So I was the personal assistant for the director of E News.
Yes, that's
And
right. I
and
remember
now
that.
that was an entertaining job in the sense that there was always something happening. I would come home and tell you all kinds of shenanigans and stories
Yes.
about who did what, who said what, what's going on in the office. So it was amusing. I
Yeah.
hated E Entertainment. I didn't
Yes, you
want to
did.
work in television. I didn't want to worship celebrities. The whole
Yeah.
thing is like the basest part of humanity celebrating people's idol worship. I just hated it, you know.
Yeah.
But it was an amusing job, and the people were pretty nice. They,
Yeah,
they
and
were they were they were good to me, and
to me it was that was cool that you're working at like a station. Now, granted, of course, like yeah, like you said, E is a very, especially back then. I haven't even watched it lately, but like, um, very celebrity focused, like
yeah,
Entertainment Tonight, 24 hours type of like
yeah.
show.
So
Right?
part of my job, what I remember was I had to watch competitor shows. So at that time, it was Entertainment Tonight and Access
Very good.
Hollywood,
Yeah,
and I had
there
to
you go.
take notes on their coverage of celebrity events and then report to the director like how our coverage of the day's broadcast compared to their coverage. We were missing big stories, and that kind of thing, so we could keep abreast of the latest celebrity gossip.
Do
Yeah.
you remember any big story that
Oh,
that was
nothing of significance. I just remember,
Ashley
yeah.
Simpson, maybe that
Oh
era?
gosh, what was going on in 2005? I do know that there at E, that was the first year Ryan Seacrest joined. It was just
Oh,
Juliana DePandy before she was
yeah.
Juliana Rancic was the host, and then Ryan Seacrest joined to do like a dual hosting gig. And so my best moment there was when the director of the news show introduced me introduced Ryan Seacrest to me. I felt very special because Ryan Seacrest joined the
Ah,
show. He was
yeah,
introduced to everybody on the floor, and she's like, "Ryan, this is Ryan O'Connell," and I'm like,
yeah,
"I'm wow, he's being
yeah.
introduced to me. How fancy!" So, but he
And
was nice. Oh, and I took a leak next to Joel McHale in the
oh,
bathroom
that's
once.
actually kind of cool.
Yeah, he stood right next to me. I looked over at him and just said, "Hey, I like your show." He was he was hosting
Talk
Talk
soup, right?
Soup, yeah,
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
time. And I thought that looks fun. He gets it because he's making fun of celebrities. Everything is sarcastic.
right.
And I was like, if there's anything I would, do with this, it would be like the job that he has is just
Oh,
ripping on
totally.
everybody. Yeah.
And
So.
that's a great celebrity encounter P moment because he ended up on Community and
Oh
he's great
yeah.
up there.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
a fan. I think he's really funny, really
yeah.
talented.
And
Yeah.
Ryan Seacrest, talk about someone who hustles. That guy is on everything, like
Yeah.
every, and
He
he's
did a
still
radio
relevant.
show at the
Yeah,
same time. And he was on like hosting. Was he still hosting American Idol? I don't
I think he
remember.
was at that time, and then
Yeah.
like now he hosts like live with Kelly, and then he does he did the Dick Clark countdown for this year, which
Oh
was
yeah.
bad in general,
Oh
not his fault.
gosh. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so it's pretty
Yeah.
relevant to people still. So yeah, were you there? Did you?
I had two jobs through that
I was,
temp
okay,
agency.
that's
So eventually they knew because I told the director straight up, I'm like, look, this is a temp job for me. I don't want to be hired full time as your assistant. And she's like, all right, I understand. So she found someone who wanted to be hired on, at staff for E full time as her
yeah,
assistant. And she gave me warning. She was nice, so I could find another temp job within E or somewhere else.
yeah.
But they just shift me departments, and then I got a job with international subtitling on a different floor of
That's
the E
right.
Entertainment building. So
Yes.
we would watch programs with foreign language subtitles, and I would quality control check those. So
Uh-huh.
not knowing pretty much any foreign
I was
language,
gonna say,
minimal Spanish, but it would
yeah.
be like there's multiple languages, they're sending it out all over the world, and I would just have to watch the screen and make sure that when somebody was talking, that the titles looked approximately timed correctly. If someone's talking, you better see a subtitle. If they're not
Oh,
talking, and that's all I did without knowing the languages, just sort of
regardless of the
screen
title.
timing. And if they were out of position, I would shift them back to the middle. And that was 8 hours a day doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. It's just funny too because, like you said, just knowing just Spanish like you did.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it has nothing to do with, yeah, language
uh,
competency.
yeah, apparently not.
Yeah.
After that point, did you leave LA after that
Yeah.
job?
So it was in the middle of that job that I called my good buddy Donnie, who lived in Atlanta at the time. And
Yes.
he's a musician, and he was running a bunch of open mics in the Atlanta area,
Mhm.
hosting them. So he had like 3 bars as his normal gig. And
Mhm.
so yeah, he would host open mic nights and get paid to like play, a decent set in between everybody's garbage,
Yeah. Yeah.
and kind of organize the thing. But yeah, he basically said, so what are you doing for entertainment? And I was
Yeah.
explaining the subtitling, and he's like, so you kind of hate it, right? And I was like, yeah, I hate it. He's like,
Yeah.
you want to come to Atlanta and like do music with me? Because I'd done music since I was a teenager and songwriting stuff, and that's my
Yes.
other muse.
Yep.
And it took me all of 3 seconds to decide that that's exactly what I was going to do. And
Yeah.
I don't regret that. It was very
No.
impulsive, but it was right for me because I came back to LA years later, and then actually I detoured, got my master's at Florida State in film production, and so film was still my number one passion. But
Yeah.
that was such a fun year in Atlanta, and learning. I not only writing more songs, but practicing. I think actually led to me being a better, more comfortable actor in front of the camera because I had to entertain the bar crowd
Yeah.
with singing and songwriting, and that is
Oh
not
yeah.
easy to do.
Live
So I
audiences.
got over a lot of stage fright, and gained a lot of confidence, and that was quite an adventure. So yeah, I left very quickly and very impulsively after that phone call.
Yeah, and there's a few things I want to touch on too with like live audiences and open mics. Yeah, I remember when you told me that you were gonna leave, and I was just like, you can't leave. Like we're gonna, we got to stick this out together, and like we have these
Yeah,
plans. Like you want to be a director, and uh, again, like hindsight's 2020 type of thing. But if you were to
yeah,
tell me that, if that was a scenario now, I'd be like, go for it. That sounds fun, and
yeah.
it's like different and an adventure. I
And I
think back,
knew it was just wanderlust anyway. Like I knew I
yeah,
was going to come back and do film
yeah,
and
and we were
television, but
still
I was
young.
like, why not? I'm only
Yeah,
22, about to
I
turn
know.
23.
I,
Why not have a
I
fun year in Atlanta doing music, right?
It's so funny you say that because yeah, back then I was more rigid about having this like set plan in mind of like I was
Hmm.
like laser focus. Like I have to stick this out and work for TV, like no matter what, you know, dignity
Yeah.
I have to give up in my job. And it's taken me a long time to like change more into the mindset of a little more going with the flow because I am kind of like somewhat of a control freak and I still am in some ways. But I see the positives in that too, but I think back then I was a little more like this is how it has to be, and I've especially in my age now have accepted to kind of just accept uncertainty and to go with the flow, but also like new experiences like that, like going somewhere different and new. Like I embrace that now, and would have been like 100% go do it. But it's funny again to compare back then. I was like, how could you do this? We got to
Yeah.
achieve our dreams, even though it's like it's your own life. Like who cares? Um, but I wanted to also touch on. So I should mention I stayed in LA only for 3 more months, and so I'm
Yeah, I
glad you
couldn't
left.
remember how long it was after
Yeah,
I left. Yeah.
yeah. Ended up staying for 3 months while working another job that I absolutely hated as a production assistant for uh, a subsidiary of Jim Henson Company that was making cartoons. Really rough director and producer that I worked for, and so I was just
Hmm.
like I luckily you left because I came to a realization of I don't want this. I want more like a supportive work environment and like maybe
Sure.
somewhere I can learn. And so still kind of like looked around LA for a little bit. I stayed for like 2 more months. And then around then I was texting my cousin Kevin, who had been in old videos of mine way back in the day, being like, if I came back to the Bay Area, would you film stuff with me? And then he said yes. And then luckily he did. And then I landed a job up there too, up at Google, which was a great experience. So I'm glad it all worked out basically. Is what I'm trying to say. I stuck it out for about, I think, 4 months after you did. I left in
Okay.
September of 2006. Um, but was gonna say for open mics, so for like trying out acting and trying those.
Yeah.
So towards the end of my time there in general, without me knowing it, this is like in the spring when we were down there. I was like, you know what? I got to try to achieve my dreams. I was trying to be a production assistant for one at studios, and I bombed those. Like, well, I bombed an interview at Paramount, for sure, because you had to
What
talk about
happened there?
yeah, you had to talk. I don't know if I ever told you this. You had to talk about why you wanted to work at Paramount. And granted, it was working for peanuts. It was probably
Yeah.
$7. That's how they treat you. You got to like pay your dues, literally. um, and
So you just have to BS. You're like, I sacrifice goats to Paramount every day. They are my
exactly.
favorite
Yeah,
production
I
company.
only watched Paramount my whole
Yeah.
life. Um, and I was so bitter, and I think I had a bad experience. I was just so like tired of it's just like the whole industry, even though I'd been there for
Hmm.
like less than a year. Um, so I came from a really bitter place. I went up to you had to like in front of the other 60 applicants, which is very like Hunger Games
Oh
style.
gosh, in
Yeah, you
front
had to
of the
talk
other.
about you're basically interviewing in front of everyone and like why
Okay.
you deserve it more than everyone. So I was like,
Holy
this sucks
cow.
too.
Yeah, that's
And
like
I
an
went,
audition. That's not an
yeah,
interview. In
and
a bad audition.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so it was almost like American Idol. They had like three like panelists from Paramount and everyone went up and did their whole like real like kiss up like they're saying what I was joking about like I grew up on Paramount movies like
Yeah.
I always dreamed of the studio and I went up there and I said something like I don't even fully remember it's so many years ago but like basically like this industry's so hard this is so tiring is pure bitterness and I was like just being honest and I was like I just don't I was like like it's so hard to even land anything and like I want this opportunity and it's entry level like just give me it basically and
Did you just escort yourself to the
so
door? Did you?
ba- basically because they asked the other people they asked everyone questions after no matter
Okay.
how they did
Okay.
they had at least a couple questions for me they were just like thank you and so I was like oh okay I remember even asking like I was so dumb back then I was like so no questions they're like no like
Oh my gosh.
I knew I bombed it at least, but so I was like doing stuff like that, and then I was like, let me try to just achieve, let me try stand-up comedy. Let me try an open mic of stand-up comedy, which I thought in my head I would do a few times, and I always got scared
Mm-hmm.
of doing that,
One
which
thing I've always wanted to do and I never have. It is scary.
is super scary. And then
Mhm.
I later on in life found out I have like general anxiety disorder, and it probably like I have legitimate reasons for like being scared. I'm okay in front of audiences once I'm like if I can get them laughing, but that's the big key if I can get them laughing. Which in
Yeah.
a work scenario compared to a comedy, it's much easier at work because
Oh,
people are
when people are expecting and paid to,
yeah,
for
yes,
you to make them laugh, that's a different
yeah.
atmosphere. Yeah.
So I drove to the comedy store, world famous, and they had an open mic night. I was like, let me just try this. So I get in, and there's hundreds of people there, trying to do the open mic. I
Wait,
made it.
back up because I don't remember the whole story. Did you at least
Yeah.
have material you wrote down or what were you
Oh
going to
my
do?
gosh. No. No. I had a thing about how like checkers at like Safeway or any grocery store usually only talk about their lunch breaks when they're checking you out, which is just in my head.
That was your one joke.
And I don't remember. Yeah, I had a few others, but it was bad.
Oh my
I would
gosh.
never do this now. And I made it. I made the cut of the list because it was just a list of names. They just chose random names
Oh, okay.
to do the open mic. So I'm like, oh no, I need something. There's like 20 people on the list. I was like, I'm gonna bomb this. They're getting closer and closer to me. Then the guy who runs the open mic comes up to me. He's like, hey, are you from Florida? And I was like, no. He goes, oh, your name looks like some comedian I know from Florida. So I'm gonna take you off this. I thought you were him. So
Ah.
I think it was a blessing because I would have
Oh, you never did it then.
so I never did
Okay.
it. So I never did that either. And
That's
then the
that's the that's the difference between you and an aggressive,
yeah.
wannabe comedians. I think everybody else would have said, "Yeah, that's me," and just
Oh yeah,
taken that as a
it's
shot.
true. I didn't even
Yeah,
think of doing that. And I think I was
yeah,
just relieved to be like,
yeah.
even I knew at that young age, I was like, I don't have anything. So then, not so then. So that was that story. I also, when we first moved down there, called a number because they had like a bunch of these up like anywhere for headshots
Oh yeah.
and for auditions. And
Mm-hmm.
luckily, even in my naivete back then, the place I called it was so shady. And so like I went in, I auditioned for this. I read one line off a piece of like scratch paper. It was one line.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls me back like the next day. He goes, John, I just want to say, he's like, you're a gentleman and you're a scholar. Like you did such a good job. And I'm like, from one line. He's like, so I'm gonna need you. He's like, if you want to come in for headshots, that'll be like $6,000. Of course, that's how they get you, right? And then even like I said, luckily at my young age, I was like, this sounds like a scam. So I
Was
even
that the agency? I never auditioned for them, but I was hearing, I think it was from you and other friends that like for background actors who wanted to break in, they would start you that way, but you had to jump through a lot of hoops and
it was a
give out a
different one.
lot of money to people, and then maybe
Yeah.
you can be a real actor.
Oh, it was a different one than that.
Okay.
And then there was a main one that was like legitimate, but yeah, you'd end up being like a non-speaking maybe background actor, and that was like
Yeah.
central casting, which I never did.
Oh yeah.
Um, Sorry, these headphones, they pop out. Did you ever try anything like that
I
while
did
we were
not
there?
do any acting in LA. Not the first time. Actually, and the second time I lived there, it was just goofing around with my friends making YouTube videos. So I never auditioned. I never got an agent. Yeah,
Yeah,
my acting experience before my 30s was just acting in videos as a kid, videos that I made with my
right.
siblings and friends, a few college
Ditto.
projects I did with you and some other classmates, and random YouTube videos, and that was
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
And I always had a blast doing it, but I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
this isn't a career,
No, 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 no. It's
Yeah,
a hobby for sure.
yeah.
Um, and I do think there's an hour time limit on these recordings, so we'll see. So I'll make sure we hit your story because we're at 45.
Okay.
Because you ended up acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not. I mean, it was a little
Legitimately.
more than a hobby. It was a
Yeah.
side hustle, or has been for the last
Mhm.
about 5 years. It's not the main way I earn income, and especially there's no shot of doing that in Phoenix. If you're in a small market area and you enjoy acting, you can actually make some side money and have a lot of fun, have some good experiences. But it's you got to have a 9 to 5. Don't quit your day job.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I was fortunate to have some really fun experiences so far. I say it in the past tense because I don't even know how I'm going to have the chance to do any more of that with 4 kids and, trying to pay
Right.
for them to stay alive. And we live further out into the valley. So even making it in the city for auditions is such a pain in the butt.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, I would still like to do it. It's just not as practical anymore. But yeah, I got it. I got an agent. Actually, how it happened is the company I was working for, this Christian nonprofit that I was doing short films for full time, writing, directing, editing. When I first moved to Phoenix, I didn't know there was an acting scene. I didn't know there were local acting agents.
It's
So I was
news to me.
putting my yeah, it's news
Yeah.
to a lot of people. I was putting myself in these videos, these short films that I was making, and like anybody I knew from church or new friends I was making. I was like, "You want to be in a movie?" I don't. That none
Right.
of them were real actors, but they're like, "Yeah, let's have fun and make a short film." And I had
Yeah.
so much fun being in the films, and I felt so invigorated by the experience that once I made contact with all these acting agents and started casting real actors, with reels and who actually had their own agents and everything,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I didn't need to be in my own films anymore. I could focus on the directing and the writing and the editing and all that stuff, which was great. But then after a few of those films, I realized, oh my gosh, I really miss this. I want to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
in
Oh,
some films.
yeah.
It was so much fun. And so
Yeah.
rather than impose myself, like a megalomaniac into my own films, I decided I'm just going to get an agent and act in commercials or other things if they want me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let me go audition. So it was the same agent. I had used her actors many times in films that I was making for that ministry, and so she knew me as a producer.
Yeah.
And then I said, hey, I'm interested in acting. Can I show you a reel of projects I've been in for this ministry, and are you interested? And she remembered me and liked working with me. She's like, yeah, send me your reel. And then we had a meeting, and she signed me and was happy to have me on board. And in Phoenix, it's like any acting agent. There are a handful of bigger agencies, and they usually include modeling, voiceover, and acting. And
Mm,
almost all the work is commercial. There's very few narrative filmmaking or
mm,
television experiences you can have here. But I know that her agency happened to focus on the acting more than like modeling, and I wasn't interested in that. So she was a good agency to pick. And
yeah.
I ended up doing, I think, 3 or 4 commercials, one small television role as a security guard in a haunted jail for Paranormal Witness.
Yes.
It was, yeah, for the Sci-Fi
Yes, for
Channel.
sci-fi. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
I haven't. I'll have to watch some of these clips, and I hope you can send me some
It's
of your
they're
commercials.
not brilliant. There's nothing that you're
But I
missing.
thought,
So,
yeah, it's all right though. But I do want to
but
see. Yeah, I
yeah,
remember you
and then
posting it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and so they have a lot of fun, really fun experiences.
yeah.
And then the main one that I'll be telling my kids about was I got to be Charles Manson for a docudrama. So Fox, this was 2 years ago now, did Inside the Manson Cult, The Lost
Yes,
Tapes,
yes.
and for all the reenactments, I got to play Charles Manson.
Oh, and
And that was
I watched that. I
oh, you
recorded it.
did?
Wait
Okay,
till I saw
yeah.
you posted that you were in it, and then I was like, I gotta see this for sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. Now it was so cool to see it, and especially because I think that I looked at the television ratings at the time because it was broadcast in a
Yeah.
prime time slot like 8 p.m. or something, and I think it was 2 to 3 million viewers, um,
Wow. Yeah.
which you're like I'm a nobody, and you're not even. I mean, when you do reenactments, the funny thing is you don't even get credited by name, like not at the front end, not even at the back end.
I
You can
didn't
go
know
on
that.
you can go on IMDb and then they'll credit you on that page. But the actual
Uh,
broadcast, nobody knows who you are and nobody cares. Like nobody was like, oh, look at that reenactment actor. That guy was quality. Like it's a
right, right.
reenactment. So it's a bigger role because it's a historical figure. Obviously, everybody knows who
Yeah.
Charles Manson is. But it's funny, like 2 to 3 million people watching that means nothing for my career because nobody knows who I am and it has no weight. But it was just a cool idea to think of that many people
Yeah.
tuning in,
Oh yeah.
and originally it was a bit of a disappointment, but that's how it goes. I had in the final broadcast, they didn't have me speaking at all. Like we ran long scenes with lots of dialogue, and I was really proud of my
I
acting.
When I saw the broadcast, I remember that.
Yeah.
I thought it's so funny you're saying that because I didn't know you acted at all in it
Oh
besides the
yeah. So there were
the
long
narrative. Yeah.
scenes, and I was like, I was
That
ridiculously method
sucks.
for some of those scenes. It was
Yeah.
like a little obnoxious. But what ended up happening is, so they hired the small production company that put it together was out of the UK, and
Uh,
the director they hired, he was only on the project until a certain point, and he had his whole vision for it, and he wanted to hear lots of dialogue from the reenactments, and make them really high quality reenactments. And then they sold it to Fox. That was already always the plan. But once Fox got a hold of editorial, it wasn't aired for another 6 months. Fox decided
uh,
they could do whatever they want with it. And here's the kicker: they might have used some of my dialogue if I even tried to do sort of the accent or the dialect of Manson.
yeah.
But they had hired me only 5 days before they started shooting. The docudrama world is like cutthroat, slapdash, like it's really chaotic, and
Yeah.
there's not much prep time. So if you're doing a character like that's like murder. I'm not even like a high
Well, yeah.
level actor, but how are
Right.
you supposed to
Like
prepare for
study.
Charles Manson
Right.
in
Right.
5 days? That's obnoxious, right?
Right.
So here I am practicing, like I'm digging into history. I'm trying to
Right.
understand the character from his
And there's a
perspective.
lot
I'm
to
like
unpack
I'm
there.
like
Yeah.
freaking out my wife because not only they hired me because I'm also play guitar and sing and I'm a songwriter. And
Yes.
Charles Manson, was a songwriter, and they wanted me to perform on camera at least 3 of his original songs. And so they, in the audition process, they were showing me his recordings. They're like, "Can you learn these?" And I picked them up really quick and was able to sing his parts.
Ah.
And so the only time you hear my voice in the show, I think there were 2 occasions where I'm singing his songs for a few seconds, and that's really me performing the songs in the show. Um,
Ah.
because your singing voice, it's a little harder to match to a speaking voice.
Right.
You would
Right.
accept more of whatever it sounded like. So,
Right.
yeah. So, but those 5 prep days, it was mostly me consuming history, trying to understand them, and practicing those songs. And like,
Ah.
the songs aren't creepy by the lyrics, but you realize, who's singing them. And I remember my
Yeah.
wife's like, "Can you go to the garage and practice that
Yeah.
crap? Because this is really creeping me out."
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
don't blame her at all. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that was an intense prep, but we did all this. So it was like the day before we shot, and I remember
Yeah.
calling the director, who was really nice and really accommodating to some of my own requests and questions, being sort of a newbie. I said, "Do you want me to try his accent? Because I'm pretty good with voice and impersonations and accents, but I don't know if I can do it consistently with like just a couple days practice. I don't want to slip in and out. I want to nail it." He's like, "Don't
Right.
even worry about that. We don't plan to ever hear Charles Manson's real voice in the
Oh.
show. So whatever your voice sounds like, you won't have a direct comparison for the audience. They'll just accept whatever you sound like." That was the plan for editorial. But when Fox got it, They said, no, we want to hear Charles Manson all over this thing. And I don't blame them because he's got a creepy, memorable voice, and that
Oh, for
added to the
sure.
whole ambiance of the piece,
Yeah.
but no one wanted to hear my, vaguely California sounding voice. And, it's obviously not how some
Right.
of the older people remember Manson. Although people our age probably didn't even know what he sounded like. I didn't, I don't remember
I
any
would
of
have
that
to
stuff.
check again. I kind of remember like a high pitched voice from like the
Yeah.
few YouTube
They're
videos I've seen.
creeping.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
creeping. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
creeping everywhere. In the courtrooms, they're creeping. So
Yeah.
that's basically how it sounded. And now I wish I would have tried it because maybe
Yeah.
I would have
Yeah.
gotten my lines in. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Um,
know. It's like, and it almost is similar to a voice you've practiced anyway on other videos you've done.
I don't remember which, but
It does kind of
maybe.
sound like him. Um, I
Oh,
I have more to discuss and more things, so maybe we'll do a part two. I guess I have more
that would be
questions for
fun.
you too. Yeah, it's
Sure.
the only reason
I'd
I'm
love to
saying that is
talk about acting
yeah,
experiences and
I
yeah.
want to talk more about the music you've done too, and
Sure.
um, those things, and a couple more of the LA memories. I'm only saying this because I'm looking at the timer, and if I recall, I have an hour on these. I forget. Well, for
Yeah.
Skype, I don't
That's
remember if
probably
there's
good
a timer.
for audiences anyway.
Yeah, that's
We could
true.
drone on.
I had more questions about the Manson thing too, so we'll do a part two one
Sure.
day.
Yeah.
Because you've done a lot of interesting things. I will say it's really cool that you did, like, you pursued the acting like you did. I was never quite brave enough to even
And I'll
do
tell you,
any.
it
Yeah.
like it's I still get nervous doing auditions. You don't get
Yeah.
over it. It's not like you get your feet wet once and you're like, "Oh, auditions
Oh
are
yeah.
easy and fine." No, like you're pretty much nervous every time. Now, you get a little bit more comfortable with it, but
Yeah.
you're really putting yourself out there and like, saying, "Please love me." And you can
Yeah.
not get cast for any number of reasons, but it's still hard not to take it personally,
The rejection.
Yeah.
Totally. Which I struggle with too. But it's funny you say that because I was listening to another podcast where a lot of like established actors, very established actors, still it terrifies them. The
Mhm.
auditions. People
Yeah.
who've been on like big credit things. So it's like I totally understand if it's anything like when I spoke to Paramount, even though I was very blasé about it. It's still hard to like go up and feel like you're being judged, basically.
Yeah.
Like you said, it could be for a number of reasons, but yeah, it'd be good to talk to you more about that, and for anyone viewing this channel, because it's they're probably
Absolutely.
curious about like because this is about our
Yeah.
Hollywood
One of the
experience, but like
most unknown actors the to play one of the most famous historical roles. Yeah, it feels so stupid too. You can even search. Wait, I mean, I have never Google searched my name to see if I ever
no,
pop up. No,
me
but you look
either,
at like
ever.
there's lists of like all the actors who have ever played Charles Manson in history, and they're not going to include a dramatic reenactment in a documentary on that. So it's like I'm definitely. It was one of the most high
Yeah,
profile possibilities for an unknown.
yeah.
Yeah,
No, and
it
it was
doesn't
pretty.
happen like that very often. Yeah.
No, and it was a pretty. I was like, whoa, he's in a real. I like
With
recorded
long
it.
hair, and I actually grew out my real beard, and
I know, and I even asked you, was that your hair? Because I was like legitimately
yeah,
curious. But no, it was a
no,
wig. Fun
yeah.
fact. I thought maybe you could. I was like, mine
The
of course
beard was
cannot.
real, the hair was fake. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought maybe you could. Before we end this, is there any? I will link to anything you want, of course, in this description. Is there anything you want to point anyone to? And it's okay if not.
Oh well, yeah. So I have a music video coming out in just a few weeks. The date exact is to be determined, not exact date. But I've been working on my COVID project. Everyone's got some pet
Oh,
project,
yes.
they're working on. But it's a music video for an original song called "Let Me Poop in Peace," inspired by my young children, as you can imagine, who
Yeah.
just don't leave me alone. And
Right.
I would like to have just a few moments of peace in my day. What is it about? So this idea, like it was almost right when lockdowns happened last March. I started writing the song, and then a lot of people liked it. I was like, I want to do a real professional recording, make it a music video. So we're actually shooting the rest of the video. We shot part of it already, but on Saturday, and then yeah, I'll be editing it in a few weeks. And the track's already available on all streaming music platforms. If you search Ryan O'Connell or Let Me Poop in Peace, you can find it on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Music. So I hope you enjoy the track. But I haven't done any social media pushes or any marketing for it. I'm waiting for the video to be released and then kind of
Yeah.
push both things. So
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you
yeah.
more about that video at our next chat because it looked like fun. You
Absolutely.
should
Oh,
too.
there's some really fun stories on set
Yeah.
once you see what we've did for the video. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about just like you said, the excitement of like filming, and then some of the opportunities I've seen and done since then too, which is more
Sure.
hobby related. YouTube related, but nonetheless, like it does bring that excitement for sure. So yeah, we'll do a part two. I had a feeling I was like there was so much to even talk about when we were down in LA.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like this will probably cover more than an hour, and I'm glad because we get to talk again. But
Well,
yeah,
good
thank you
chat with
so
you,
much.
John.
Yeah, thank you so much, Usas. This falls out one last time for doing this. Whoa, here we go.
It was my pleasure. It's good to catch up with you too and reminisce over our
Yes.
crazier days.
Yes, I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. And then for any of the viewers on this channel, if you're new, please subscribe. I do a lot of these types of videos. I do travel videos. More to come on this channel. I have my comedy channel at J Brant Productions. So follow those.
Yeah.
Too. A
Funny
lot of
videos.
pitches.
We'll have to talk
Thank
about
you.
the few that I've been in too, which I'd like to call classics, but I don't want to toot my own horn.
Oh, I mean, top viewed. I should check again. Yeah, that's right. You were in some.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk about that for sure. But yeah, thanks again, and talk to you guys next time. Bye bye.